concerned about trouble and trend and irresponsible, one-sided news stories.
Sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Greetings, December Nation. Recommendation from Ryan.
Yours truly.
Greetings, December Nation. Dave and Ryan with you for the weekly show. Remember, stay subscribed by clicking on the bottom right of the screen, and you get more of this weekly show every Monday at 7. Great stuff. This is the weekly show, all the week's hottest topics with a twist. Speaking of hot topics, this is Ryan with me. I think Ryan had something he wanted to open up the podcast with.
I had an opener, my friend, a can opener. So we cover it every week, right? We have, at least since it's gone on, about the new normal and the re-engineering of society, the Great Reset, and all these things we see. And the thing that's most prevalent that is really defining that everything is super different than it's ever been before is schooling, right, with our children.
Sure.
The level of online interaction, which means the kids are staying home. Young kids can't stay home alone, so it's affecting parents. So basically, our youth are actually shouldering, other than healthcare workers, obviously, and frontline people, are shouldering the most burden on the general population, more than anybody, is our kids. So I told my little brother that now that you can do digital learning and now that we're acclimated to it, it's not perfect and it sucks just like public school normally does, but I'm sure if you give them enough time and resources, they'll get something decent. But my point is, if next time there's a snow day, right, or next time there's a water main break at the school, what's to say that the teachers can just pull up a laptop? All right, kids, we're still going to school today. Basically, there's no school, there's no more snow days. They've abolished the need for holidays or reasons to take off of school. And then it got me thinking even a little further. So if they'll take our snow days, there's got to be millions of applications to people, whether it be through work, that if you're sick at work, you call in sick with the flu. Well, how about you just boot up the computer and then you do your day's work today while you're sick?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a good handful of jobs where that's possible.
Yeah, and I also was thinking about maternity leave for some office ladies or bank tellers or some of these other positions that you could possibly be. You could be out while trying to raise your kid, and they'll be like, well, we're actually going to make you work while you're on maternity leave. I'm not saying that this is necessarily going to happen or something, but I was thinking about the implications that businesses and now school are really thinking about ways that they can save money. And to another example, if they're going to let you do your job digitally in your own house and pay you a good wage and a livable wage, as they like to say, what's stopping them from just outsourcing that job to India because they're already not paying for a building anymore, or they're already not paying for all these computers to go to people locally? I'm saying in the future, 10 years, 15 years.
Sure.
What's stopping these companies from not even having there'll be an American company with a business that has just enough people to have an address here and be an American company. And then they'll outsource all the work to a Chinese firm or an Indian firm, an Indonesian firm, and they'll do all of the bank telling, or they'll do all of these digital jobs that we have basically voluntarily implemented in with these digital devices and Zoom meetings and all these other business conferences. Somebody I know, not to get this into something segue, but somebody I met over the weekend is a guy, he deals with animation. He's actually worked at WB and stuff. Very cool person. We had a good conversation and everything, but he brought that up. He's like, now that I work from home, he's like, I'm actually kind of worried that it's just another enticing reason for them to segue our industry of animation in California in particular to overseas. Because they don't need the building. If you can work from home, you don't even need the office building. You know, so like you're less enticed to even hire people in America because you don't even have the building to put them there to do the job you're paying them. So like this really is like when we talk Great Reset and we talk the new normal, when we talk about these, that could very well be a repercussion of some of this stuff that we were doing now, 10 years down the line or so.
Yeah, there's no doubt this is going to change a lot of industry long term, and of course, there's still some jobs that aren't replaceable or you can't do that with. But there's certainly a lot of jobs that I can see that happening too, and that does. I mean, that happens now to some extent, but you're saying to a greater extent that could be coming.
Yeah, and not necessarily that's nefarious that like these businesses are like, we're gonna just screw over all these people and steal, not pay them and have higher, they just want corporate bailout and then they want higher profits. Sure, that whatever can say about that, but it's gonna be a cause and effect thing here. It's gonna be lawyers, for example. Do lawyers really need a law firm if I can talk to him on a phone call over the internet and then he can just fax me something through my cell phone?
Maybe not.
They have all these. Yeah, I mean, so then in theory that would make the legal cost cheaper, but you would think. But yeah, maybe they don't even need that building anymore. Real estate. Do they even need like a real estate, this big building? They have all these people's offices when they might be like, no, we work from home. We have our central office that you can go to where like there's resources to sell and you meet there, whatever. But yeah, this is changing business for sure.
Yeah,
E-commerce blew up now. That was super prevalent with Jeff Bezos, right? He doubled his net worth under COVID. Well, I'm sure there was plenty of other people that doubled their net worth under COVID. I'm sure. There definitely plenty of the average person lost their jobs, but the entrepreneurs, the people with the money that can invest and buy stocks, for example, or businesses or, whatever, I'm sure some people also doubled their net worth because of their business strategies in e-commerce and other areas.
Sure.
So,
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it for a second.
Yeah.
But Jeff Bezos was the notable one because he was already worth some insane amount of money, and that doubled. That's just crazy.
Yeah, and we talked about it before that just the ability of the way he operates that company now and the things that you can do with it, like Amazon started selling books. Now they can deliver the book to your house.
Yeah.
Like that, the whole thing to get that book to your house. He probably saved, we'll say millions of infected people potentially from his system. Walmart's system of pulling up and putting the groceries in the back could have maybe saved thousands of spreads locally to thousands of people. Like capitalism helped contribute the spread of COVID, but it can also mitigate some of the backlash or the fallout of it, rather.
Yeah. Well, capitalism, I feel like, wasn't really, I feel like it could have mitigated it more if they just allowed it to occur. So instead of shoving everyone into a Walmart, maybe allowing the small businesses to be open, you would have been better off.
Yeah, and I'll get into it a little bit more. I'm not going to break all this crap down because I'll get so aggravated with Cuomo. But Cuomo coming out with all these executive orders this week, and it's like basically whatever. It was something with old people and the vaccines, I think was one of them. And it was just showing like the failure of not only our representation, but like the failure in the executive orders to begin with. Because like you're keeping you keep issuing these orders because the premise is that the things need to get done, right? That's what you're saying. You're like, oh, this needs to be done, so I'm just doing executive action to get it done. Well, like, if it's so important, how come Congress can't hold an emergency session and talk about everything? Why is that so hard to think about? Yeah. If it's so important, There should be able, if everybody's hurting locally, if everybody's losing their jobs and everything's as bad as you're saying it is, which to some people it really is, why can't we have people, like, you have to just issue this proclamation? And they're, once again, executive actions. They're not laws. They're just pieces of paper. And this is, the guy gave himself dictatorial power until the 21st of April, or April of 2021.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he can just unilaterally write any amount of legislation, expand the power of the governor of the state of New York, and then he's dictating things all across the state, which he doesn't know anything about other than what he's told. Like, the people that we pay for representation aren't even allowed to have our representatives speak for us. It's so ridiculous, and this has been a problem in a lot of these states. And I get that it's a global pandemic and it's a local and a state pandemic and all this other stuff, but, like, we can't, like, just abandon the legislative process because of a problem.
Yeah, well,
I mean, in World War II, when we were bombed by the Japanese, we issued a proclamation of war. That means that Congress came together and was like, yeah, we're going to go to war with Japan.
Yeah. And
they issued a declaration of war. Eisenhower gave the speech about December 7th, 1940 and all that. And, yeah, man, like, you're telling me we can't do that? We got into world wars, and we can't do it now for a virus. We can't do it for a snowstorm. We can't do it.
Just to back up further your point, though, why couldn't this be done online at home? And you don't even have to adjourn in session. Just go on, log online.
Well, David, here's the thing: the laws that these people are making are only affecting us. They're not affected. None of the government is infected by the executive actions that he's taken. He gets to drive around, go anywhere he wants, and he can wear a mask and social distance and sit directly next to people. But then he's talking about how other areas aren't taking it seriously. Like, and then he's writing books about it. Like, I don't want things to become, quote, political when we talk about investigating nursing homes. But then he plays politics and says that this side of the state's not taking it seriously. Or that some of the people here in my state of New York are talking about, if vaccine numbers don't reach acceptable amount, they're going to force mandate or encourage, however they're trying to put this. They're going to try to force you to take a vaccine.
Yeah. Well,
now, whether they're good or bad, let's talk about, like, what we actually are talking. Like, what did I call it a few weeks ago? Biological breadlines. Well, here we are. I mean, I said it as, like, a joke, but
yeah. Well, this is all really tying into a lot of this ties into many headlines that we have. It's like you're telling the future, Ryan, because I have many here.
I'm pretty plugged into the Matrix, David.
I don't know where I want to start. I guess I should start with, we're just going to go in order of these. We'll get to some of the things that you predicted, but I'll start off, let's call it lighthearted, I guess.
Lighthearted? Is there some good news this week?
No, not really. Maybe you saw this. I think this one really struck me for two reasons. One, because it's Buffalo Bills news, but it's also ESPN racism news. Headlines. ESPN's Foxworth, I root against Josh Allen because his fans are patriotic Americans who like dogs. It's really concerning. Damn patriotic fans who like dogs. ESPN doesn't care about sports. They haven't cared about sports for a long time. They just use that as a front for their CNN with more sports coverage, I guess.
David, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I know I do this a lot on this program. People, I'm well aware of it, and I enjoy doing it, asking David questions that I already know the answer to. But please tell me what country athletes of sports get paid the highest amount of money?
Is this a setup? Is this a trick question? It's got to be soccer players.
Why are you saying that? Because soccer is watched by a third of the globe. It's the largest
I
sport
just feel
globally.
like soccer players have ridiculous contracts. Well, so do baseball players. I know the answer to this. It's the United States.
No, that's what I thought. Why do we have so many foreign athletes in America? Well, they play really good in their, I'll use a Trump term here, piece of shit countries, and then they come here on scholarships and Nike deals, and I find it awfully painful a little bit. This is kind of like the whole punch a Nazi thing. It really is. Because you're like calling out people being patriotic, and you're just going to gravitate their patriotism. Like, oh, you're a piece of shit for being patriotic with America. Be like, yeah, I know. And now I'm more patriotic because now I have to defend America from another guy who's an idiot. Like you're just strengthening people's resolve. Like okay. This is so ridiculous. Like these guys get paid the most out of any athletes ever in the history of humankind. Ever. And then you're going to say that because people here support America and in this region, this is another attack on the 27th district of New York, the largest Republican voting bloc in all of Northeast America. This is in the state of New York. This is the Texas of New York. But we are a purple Texas.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of conservatism here, Republican values. Republicanism was started in Buffalo. The grassroots that turned into the Republican Party started here. It's still here. The 27th district is proof of that.
Yeah, and one of our own,
so
his ancestors were involved in this.
He was a December 1773 member of the council. But yeah, this is just another attack on this region. Like you said, CNN and stuff. Are they really owned by CNN?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think they're owned. Who's ESPN owned by?
I know that 5 companies own everything eventually, but there's a lot of media companies in between CNN and ESPN.
No, I don't think. No, that was just a joke because they're left-leaning politically.
Yes, but back to that whole point. They know that. You know what I mean? Like this is a well-known dude. I'm telling you, this is maybe that's why they killed. I believe that in this state they destroyed the city of Buffalo so that New York City could thrive. That's what I believe. How do you destroy a city that's sitting next to the largest freshwater source of water on Earth in the same spot with the Great Lakes? It's got an international border there. Like, come on. The Niagara Falls is in Buffalo. Niagara Falls, Buffalo. A natural wonder of the world. Like a crazy waterfall. Beautiful. Like, how do we destroy this? The largest grain...
Niagara Falls looks tremendous from the other side. Niagara Falls itself is horrible.
This whole city had ancient City Hall is like one of the original. It's like super old school Renaissance style American colonialism like architecture, like 1900 architecture, and they destroyed the buildings and stripped them and all these old things. They just destroyed them and let people come in here and just gut this town up and carve it up like they're the mobsters, man. Like they destroyed this area on purpose, and this is just. To me, it all ties back together that they attack this region in particular and they don't want it to succeed. That is why they will never admit that the Buffalo Bills are the only New York team, because it will not give credos to us. They will always thieve that from us. And on top of that, congratulations to the Buffalo Bills being the AFC champions.
AFC champs. He can keep rooting against Josh Allen.
I'm proud of my city. And if they win out this year, they'll have the same record as the super good Bills that everybody talks about, the good old years. So
to be clear, to his point, I'm patriotic and I like dogs, but you are patriotic and you are into cats.
Yes, that's correct.
So I don't know what the dogs and cats have to do with it. Leave the dogs and the cats out of it, ESPN.
It's funny. He can call me a dog, like I'm like white trash or something. But if I say anything remotely about a type of animal that could be construed as racist, it would be the end of the world. I'm not saying I was thinking it. I'm just saying, like, if we're saying animals here.
Yeah, that's right. I have one here. It's
Stray dog. A stray
From
dog
your-
would be like the racial equivalent of animal. It'd be like a stray, patchy dog with like sores and shit, rabies. Sorry. Sorry.
This is more from your favorite person.
I'm telling you, man. If I could have 10 minutes in the room with that guy.
Headlines. New law bans Confederate flags, other symbols of hate on state property. This is a new law signed by Governor Andrew Cuomo. Symbols of hate, which, of course, is probably not a very defined thing.
Oh, just like assault weapons aren't a defined thing, so they have to make up what is a considered assault weapon.
Well, it's smart on their part, because then if they leave it open-ended, it can be whatever they want it to be.
Oh, it's weird. And God damn it, I'm so tired of it. We live in a post-truth world, David, and this is Orwellian because you just said it. If you allow them to define language, they then can use it to their interpretation, and they will. Symbols of hate, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, what's that mean?" Be like, "Oh, like Nazis and Confederate flags." All right. First of all, the rebel yell and Southern pride, whatever. I don't care. I'm a Northerner. We won, so like, get over it, you know, kind of thing. Like our ancestors up here like fought and beat them, and we beat them back at Gettysburg, and yeah, like fuck the South, basically. If we're going to that mindset of that time that the Confederates were this Southern, you know, they seceded from our countries. They were traitorous, just like the United States was traitorous to Britain. So it's in our blood to do this shit. But like, I don't hate those people, but yeah, they can leave it open-ended. Symbols of hate could eventually mean Donald Trump hat. You know, if I'm talking modern terms right now.
I'm sure that's not a far conclusion to
They're
draw.
both red like Nazis with white letters. Yeah, absolutely. If we allow them to define the language that we're living under with legalese, like that's their lawyer terms, that's real, that's how they get you on crimes and everything with capital letters, is legalese. We allow them to define these things, and then what is it? So I'm also thinking about something, right? On what did it say? State property?
Yeah.
So by extension of the law, I cannot protest with Confederate flags on state property. So would that not be an extension
I suppose
a
that
violation of my First Amendment for redressing my government of their grievances and peaceful assembly, and also the freedom of speech?
Well, I suppose you could have a point there, Ryan.
What else do you call it, Dave? Is it a point, or is it? Pretty sure the First Amendment says exclusively all those things. I know, because I've actually, unlike the average American, I know my amendments relatively decently.
Yes, you certainly could make that point, and I'm sure that will be made at some point. I wouldn't doubt that goes to.
Well, I mean, because I know, right, and under the premise is like, oh, at our state flag, right? Our state flag, you know how they fly the state flag and the LBGT, WXQYZ flag and everything else. It's not trans hate. I'm just making fun of their label. The rainbow flag, the Canadian flag, whatever they're flying, like that's no Confederate flag there. Why would Confederate flag fly north of the Mason-Dixon line anyways? Because once again, we're Northerners. We beat them. If we're looking at our history, we beat them. You can go all over Gettysburg. There's literally murals and plaques and I've never been there, but cannons still there from the Civil War that were like, yo, this is where, like, this is the hill and this is the thing. Like, there's a reason we have all that stuff there. Like, it's crazy. This is crazy. So I know that's what they did. They did it so that if anybody were to Proud Boys, for example, right? Are those some people that I don't know much about them? Are those people that have flown the Confederate flags for state rights and all that whole right-leaning argument? But like, this is a way to circumvent the First Amendment for protesting. I guarantee you. And I say that because I'm actually going to tie into here. I'm going to hijack your headline because there was a protest in Buffalo that turned violent over the weekend, and there was one protest here as well. And somebody that went there had a flag that was the Confederate flag mixed with the Gadsden flag and as well as the Revolutionary flag. It was like all three flags smashed together. And then that got aired on social media and the news saying that racists were downtown. And then the narrative was hijacked. I don't know quite all the specifics of this. I'm just remembering the basic premise that basically they were protesting on government property with the Confederate flag. So if I now factor in Cuomo's new executive action, right, because it wasn't a law.
Well, it did say in the article that it was a law signed by Governor Cuomo. I didn't fully fact check that, so it could have been an executive action, and the article just referred to it as a law. But according to the article, it was a law signed by Governor Cuomo.
I'm actually going to look on my end because I believe I have this headline. It's also funny that nothing's been said about a sexual harassment that's been leveled against Andrew Cuomo.
No, that's fine.
There's actually a statistic released by Fox News that shows literally none of the left-leaning organizations have covered the Cuomo sexual abuse scandal. He just said it didn't happen, and they're like, okay, moving along here. But how long did they run that Trump was raped a 9-year-old girl or whatever the fuck it was in the media right before the election? You know?
I don't know. What about Believe All? What happened to Believe Women?
That's it only affects right-leaning people, David.
No, only believe.
You gotta believe all women if you're the right person. You know.
What if two women say things that are opposite of each other? Do you believe both of them?
Ooh, I don't know. You gotta believe them all, so it doesn't matter. Make sure you especially believe her when she says, "No, honey, I don't love him. He's just a friend of mine."
We will not go down that road on this podcast. Maybe one day.
That will be the after hours cut.
This is an interesting one because this, I don't know. You'll know why it's interesting, and this is something that you have talked about as late as last week, but I think before that as well. Headlines. SCOTUS rules that federal agents can be sued when they violate your rights. I think you've talked about that before.
How come this is only a law now?
Well, it was a ruling from Supreme Court. I think it was.
Yeah, meaning that like somebody who's fighting this.
Yeah.
Like, so it was a federal person. Be like, you can't sue me. I work for the government. Be like, what do you mean I can't sue the government? You're not people. We the people. It says "we the people" on the document that you guys swore an oath on that you probably never read. Foreign and domestic. Yeah, that's a domestic foreign terror threat, you bastard. We the people are the government, and I can't even sue we the people the government. What are we doing? We think government is like it is a machine, but like there's no head. It's not a real thing. It's not like it's not like you can like be like, oh, so you have to be able to sue the federal agent that was shitty. Like, why are we fighting this?
Well, this is where it gets tricky, Ryan, because as we've been referring to as of late, these federal agents aren't elected officials.
Oh man! So they're not held accountable because we can't vote them out. Yeah, so by extension, they're trying to cover their ass because they don't want to be sued for when they're shitty.
That's right. Yeah, they wanted the best of both worlds. You can't get voted out of office because you're unelected, and you can't be sued out of office. It's not really even an office per se.
And plus, suing would promote a scandal, which then would require detective work, which would uncover more scandals, which would bring down more people, which would crumble part of the establishment and the swamp and the entrenched and gross government we have. We wouldn't want all that. So I'm glad that the Supreme Court actually did their job.
Ryan, would it be frowned upon if I ran for office one day and my first action would be to eliminate all unelected positions? Do you think that would get any traction?
Probably not. I wonder why, though, David.
Shocking. I just don't know.
It makes you wonder, like, it's. I thought about that. I don't know if I talked about this last week or not, but I came to like the realization that like the reason people gravitated to Trump, other than like his stardom and character and all that, and his policy, whatever you want to say that you liked him about, what you truly believed was that this guy is literally gonna wreck everything, right? And the reason you want to wreck everything is because it's so hard to just slowly change things.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like the Revolutionary War was slowly happened, but then it exploded with the shot heard around the world at Lexington and Concord. You know, that.
To your point, it was a while back. Obama was in office, and the Republicans in Congress. This must have been a little bit later in his terms. They created what Obama called was a spending cut, which it wasn't really a spending cut. It was a cut in the rate of spending. And because of that, some unelected officials had to leave office. And then that became a way for them to basically just create all this nonsense and saying that, like, you know, people were coming across the borders because, you know, they were short on federal agents and all this nonsense. But at the end of the day, to your point, they couldn't even cut we were talking about the smallest change possible. They cut a rate of automatic spending increase. So to go from that to go to eliminating a couple seats in unelected officials to eliminating, like, say you were to eliminate like the ATF entirely, we're a long ways away from that.
Well, yeah, people have this notion that without the ATF, this is another funny thing. I don't mean we're mixing topics, but it's still the same. Like the same people that are like defund the police are like, no, we need an ATF. You know, like there's this conversation that like we need the government, but you hate the police. Maybe the ATF was a bad example because that does, but like, right. We when you go, we don't need the Federal Reserve. You're like, yeah, we do. How are we going to spend money? Be like, oh, how do you feel about police? Oh, we need to abolish ICE. You know, like you'll be selective for one government organization you don't like, but then the other ones you're like, no, we need this government organization. Be like, no, we don't need government. Like the point of being a free person is not needing the government. We're like willingly giving up our sovereignty as people. It's not even about your land or job anymore, because that has been changed under COVID. This is about, by extension, those vaccines that we're all talking about. It's sovereignty over your body.
Yeah.
I said a few weeks ago, are we getting to the point that I can't go back to work unless I have my vaccines?
Ooh, stop there. Are you stopped? Headlines. It's like you're telling the future. Employers can bar unvaccinated employees from workplace, EEOC says.
For the record, I did not know about this.
No,
I did not see this headline.
Until
I did not see this in the news feed. Yeah, I predicted that.
Do you want to see it?
I'll take.
There it is.
Yeah.
Can't see it.
Yeah,
Light's too bright. It's there. Though.
I'll take that. I'll take that to the bank all day. I knew this would happen. And you know what? By extension, they'll probably be able to deny you unemployment because you won't get a shot.
Maybe. And you're not getting a stimulus. So
not a stimulus because you can't figure that out.
I guess you better get injected.
We want too much money. Be like, well, every week we need more money. So you're going to need more money. Like, what are we doing? You will bail out trillions of dollars to corporations and Wall Street bankers. You can't give us $1,000 that you steal from my bank account every day. Like, what are we doing? The people, even the people that we can hold accountable, right? Because we vote them in, we don't change them because change is painful. So the MAGA revolution was about crushing, right? Like slugging the politicians back, right? And we could argue about Trump, whether he became part of the swamp or not, whatever. But that's the point. Like at that point, people understood that changing this is going to be so painful. And maybe with this COVID thing, this was really the test of how much pain you wanted, how much pain you were willing to take, and things you were willing to sacrifice to get the change that you desired on the other side of it? Like, what are you willing to cut your wrist for? Your family, your job, your lifestyle, your country? And then what ones would you give up above the other ones? Would you put your family before your country? Would you put your country before your family? Would you put your wealth before your family? Like, what are your priorities as a person? What's the one thing you'd fall on your sword for? And that's what we're seeing. That people, when it came to it, they had their 5, and they're like, all right, I got 4 things left on the list that I die for. 3 things left on the list I die for. 2 things left on the list I would die for. And we're in it. We're almost a year into this, into a massive global pandemic shutdown. And people's list of things that they would sacrifice and things that they would die for is getting smaller and smaller. I've said for years that in the times when, let's just say like apocalyptic scenario, right? You're going to know who your friends are because there's going to be people that you love that will sell you out for a loaf of bread because they will be so hungry, and somebody will give them a loaf of bread to backstab you or to steal from you or get information from you or whatever. That basic survival instinct is impregnated in this pandemic and in this decision of, are we willing to really let things burn with a change at the political level that has not been seen in a century?
Yeah, that's really what it's been so far. And like you said, it's been almost a year now. So, it's gotta be. How much longer is this gonna be? Is it weird to try to make a prediction now?
Well, it seems that we, no matter who it is or what we say, like the predictions are all smashed. You know, like I remember we covered here that Fauci said originally back in March, I think it was, that they predicted 200,000 people dying totally. Now we've surpassed that, but at that time they're like, "This is our prediction." Well, we broke the prediction. Well, 2 weeks to flatten the curve has become 6 months into 9 months into this. So, like, for them to come out and say next year, when you get a vaccine, when we make a vaccine, things will go back to normal. Then it becomes, with the vaccine, you still have to wear a mask.
But this is really the point. This is the point, though.
Abusive relationship right now. Like, imagine like if we could equate this to physicality. This is like me punching you in the face and saying I'm not punching you in the face. Like, oh, 2 weeks, smash. It's 4 weeks later. Oh, we're flattening the curve still. Okay. Punch you in the face again. 9 months later, businesses are closing. They're rallying together, burning your petitions of fines. I don't have the declaration in front of me, but I was going to go, maybe I could do this for next week's episode. I was going to go through and compare some of the things in the declaration because I know that there's passages in there that talk about how the King of England has snuffed out our subsistence. I believe that's the term Jefferson uses. What else is defined and snuffed out our subsistence than forcing my business to close, my private business? That is snuffing out my subsistence. That is making me dependent on other forces that are outside of my control. And the forces that I can control through legislation, you can't even get a relief bill passed. A second one. You knew the first one wasn't good enough. You said it from the beginning. You said, this isn't enough. We'll be back here. We'll get the next one figured out. Let's pass this one now. This has been the most wishy-washy shit ever. They're like, government is literally kicking the can down the road in front of you on both sides of the aisle, and you still want a government that's strong and strong regulations and everything else. How do you think they're able to shut us all down and make us stay in our house other than strong regulations? If there was no FDA, if there was no New York State lottery and gambling or state liquor licenses and state authorities, I could serve beer to anybody I wanted. But it's because the government can get in a car and drive down here because they pay them to spy on me and steal my stuff, snuff my subsistence from my life, from my pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They've literally stolen all this stuff from us. And we don't know it. We're not educated. We're not told it. We're not taught our civics. So they're allowed to tell us that we can't go to work unless we have our vaccine. And we're just like, okay, I'll get my vaccine. Even though it's not a trusted vaccine, in theory, we've done the testing at mass, but not in duration. we've done the quantity of testing, but not the length of testing. And
Mhm.
those are different things. Those are different numbers. There's some things, reports in the headlines. There's some headlines that say that these people are getting headaches and other things. So, is that person a certain medical condition that shouldn't get the vaccine? Does this change the age group? Like, we don't know. And we're allowing this influx and this movement of government that is like, so they don't even know what the hell's going on, and they're making laws every other day. They're making executive actions because they can't make laws that work the first time. And we're just expecting it to all work out. We're expecting that next year things go back to normal. But we're allowing, like, the government, we took our foot off the gas. And now, and to go even tie some of my points together here, by extension, people figured, well, the way to get it back to normal is to elect the old normal. So they vote for Joe Biden because we want America back open. We want to go to bars. We want to be able to go to our kids' public events and not be all crazy. And we think that going back to something like that, at least the policy makers that gave us that, we're going to get there faster magically. We're going to get there better or something. And at the same time, we're electing that because we want to go back to our normal. They're telling us about all the other stuff that they want to do after we've already elected the guy.
Mhm.
So I know it's all kind of all over the place, but this is where we're at. I mean, it doesn't doubt me that some jobs may make you get a vaccine to go work there, and then they'll shut you down for unemployment. And you could say, my body, my choice. You can say this and that. And they're going to tell you that it's a privilege to go in public or something. They're going to tell you these crazy justification and these terms that we've allowed them to define for us that we live under.
Yeah. And
we've allowed them to define what is socially distant. We've allowed them to define that socially distant means 6 feet or greater. We allowed them to do that legally. We allowed them to define social distance legally. We've allowed them to define 50% capacity legally. We've allowed face coverings legally. It's not a suggestion. It's not a recommendation. It's not highly encouraged. It's you have to. And if you don't wear it in Wegmans, someone's going to come up to you and either attack you or whatever, or they're going to call somebody and you're going to get thrown out of there. They're going to snuff out your substance because the business is worried about losing its licenses because of the levels of government growth and power that can shut down the place where I buy groceries from. It's insane. Thank God Amazon delivers things. Thanks God I can drive up and I don't need. Thank God capitalism circumvents government overreach so that I don't need a mask and I can still get food. Thank God for drive-throughs so I don't have to go into public and be socially distant and feel like can't trust my neighbor because they have a contagious disease that will kill everybody. I'm sorry, I'm a rambling man. I can't. The executive action today, I saw it yesterday or something. It pissed me off. Like this guy is just shoving all this shit down our throats. And he has the audacity to tell me that we should be lucky that indoor dining is shut down because it's stopping the spread, basically. And it's like, who is this? This guy's so out of it. People's lives are being ruined. Do you want this? Do you want people's lives to be ruined? Do you want more people on government aid? What does Rush Limbaugh call this? What do people on the right call this? Low information voters, because government's acting like Santa Claus, promising you all the goodies and filling your stockings with free universal health care and free college tuition for your granddaughter and UBI so that if you don't have a job, you're okay. Food stamps. And the solution is make the rich pay for it. Yeah. That's their whether it's possible or not. That's just their solution. Is the rich will pay for it. Meanwhile, Congress can insider trade, and Congress can do all. Congress millionaires, they're the rich and wealthy, and they're telling us that they're going to tax the super wealthy. The same people that have helped write the legislation, lobby the legislation to go around it, or have offshore bank accounts.
Yeah,
it's like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry, back to your headlines, Dave.
Well, this one will take us maybe in a different direction temporarily, but I got so many that are going to go touch back to the points that we're talking about right now. But this one, I just want to do this because I think very little do I agree with I'm going to call her AOC because I'm Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, however you want to. I don't want to.
Dude, you put the Latin seasoning on that, man.
A little bit.
That's pretty good.
A little bit. I didn't roll the R's, though. I didn't want to get too crazy. But I think I agree with her here. Headlines. Rep AOC tries to legitimize and promote prostitution. Sex work is work. I just want to go on record. I don't have a problem with two consenting adults doing this at all.
Two or more consenting adults.
Well, now we're getting crazy.
You want to get crazy?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with this. This is one of those things. This is one of those things. The social conservatives on the right, they need to let it go.
You mean the same guys that have side pieces from their wives?
That's right.
I bet you in the history of Congress, there has been at least a fourth of them that have paid for sex.
I would. Yeah, I don't know. Probably.
Considering there's a fuck island where Bill Clinton was.
I wish it was literally called that. I wish that was his name for it.
Dude, you know that place has a name. You know.
It's Little St. Jeffrey,
probably
though.
named that like Atlantis or something. No, it's like Atlantis or something. It's something, dude, like a mythical name like Themyscira or Olympus.
I could see Olympus.
The Pantheon or something like Asylum, you know? Like these Greek, it would be something in like Latin or Greek or like very extreme and high class and cult like. Speaking of Epstein, this week, the Canadian Jeffrey Epstein, his name is Peter Neugaard, Nygar. The dude is worth $117 million, was indicted for sex trafficking.
Shocking.
It seems like these multi-hundred millionaires are creeps and they flock together. I bet you that guy knew Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, I doubt it.
Come on. He's a fashion tycoon or something too on top of it.
Oh, is he? Was that his front?
Yeah, his front, his fashion. That's his bodega, right?
Wasn't that
it's the fashion
Victoria?
Industry.
Wasn't the Victoria's Secret person like that too?
Yeah, it came out. He's like, you're, like basically talking about these girls that they're not good enough and like shaming them or like treating them like crap and sexually harassing them. And
I bet he's trafficking too. It just hasn't come out yet. Come on.
He probably's got those girls growing in a jar or something. If China's making super soldiers, Victoria's Secrets is making fashion models. All right, I'm going on record now.
Global DNA.
Global DNA bank. Don't worry about
secret.
it. Let's just open trade up with these people and give them all our intellectual property that they're going to steal if we don't give it to them. Okay, Google, good idea. Google should, if they really go after these big techs and make them monopolies, we should also go after them for treason to America, for allowing them to get wealthy in these Asian countries that have communism, that have allowed like communism, capitalism to merge and then use that as a spy grid to spy. We should trial, if there was Nuremberg trials after World War II, I would argue that the big tech companies have actively engaged in censorship and promotion of the suppression of civil liberties in Asia.
In Asia, they've done it here.
Nope. Well, I'm saying in particular with these, I was going on my anti-Chinese Republic of China.
I'm sure they do it there, but they do it here too.
They suppress the information about the Muslim thing, the concentration camps. They suppress some of the other stuff that came out. And there was going back and forth right now. There was intelligence communities hijacked, and people are saying it's Russia. Trump saying it's China. It's all of them.
Yeah, it's very likely more than one.
Apparently, Trump took money away from cybersecurity to pay for his wall. So, if that is true, that's pretty dumb. Like, get it together. That's why you need to consort IT experts, and we're going to trust Congress to break up monopolies, but we can't even cover our computers.
I'm gonna guess.
I know people with master's degrees in computers, and they can tell me how to secure the freaking federal government probably better than our elected officials.
I'm gonna guess China was getting in before we diverted any money. That's just a guess.
Hey, I wonder if China was just using Hunter Biden's credentials, considering he was receiving sizable payments from the Chinese government.
Oh, I don't know why you would say such a thing. That's conspiracy talk.
Let's not run that as an important headline during an election cycle. Oh, Russia interfered in the election. Well, what did the news media do? Oh, we were just reporting on what there was. But you withheld information and flagged it as fake news. We were just doing our jobs as beacon of truth holders.
The gatekeepers.
You intervened in a domestic election with scrutiny for the truth.
Yeah, with all this talk of foreign interference in elections, we don't talk enough about domestic interference in elections.
Yeah. Or domestic interference in my civil liberty to have a business, because they want to highlight how dumb it is that we given our control to these bastards.
Speaking of businesses, Elon Musk is in some hot water lately. I don't know if you've seen this. Headlines.
He's an alien, so he'll be all right. He'll be able to live in boiling
Tesla
water.
CEO Elon Musk under fire after calling trans pronouns aesthetic nightmares.
Oh, so what's he under fire for? I'm confused.
Basically, that is. Basically, his take was he doesn't care what other people do. Just all the they, them, they, whatever is nonsense.
What
That's all
was his actual quote again?
Aesthetic nightmares.
Aesthetic nightmares.
Yeah.
So aesthetic would mean at face value, like the look of something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so it's a physical nightmare.
Well, basically what he's saying is there's no depth to any of this, any of the they them stuff. You are who you are, and just let it end there.
Because once again, what are we allowing them to do? And that's what he understands. That's what Peterson understands.
That's right. They're controlling language.
Yeah, they're inventing language, not even just controlling. Because then they say something is this, like, okay, this is what it means legally. Oh, okay, so that means by default, the things that it is not is now a different thing as well. Like, they're creating new language every time that they control language. They circumvently make new language. And they can label that hate speech, they can label that misinformation, they can label that fake news, whatever they want. Because they have made the terms. We've allowed them to define the
argument. And don't think it's crazy, because in other countries, people have gone to jail for using the wrong pronouns. Other countries being just north of us, actually.
Other countries, absolutely. And once again, Elon Musk, he never said that I hate trans people or that they're evil or disgusting or anti-God or...
No, he actually backed them up and said he supports their right to be who they are. In literally the same, sentence.
Elon is just saying that it is not a good idea to let government define pronouns.
Essentially, at the core of everything.
It's government incompetence, man. That got us the problems. We want more to fix it. It's a communist takeover of America. It's really what it is. It's they're defining language. It's communism.
I want that last headline to lead into this one because I think it's there's definitely it's all relative. Headlines. Supreme Court forces Indiana to deny biology, declare adoptive mothers biological parents in same-sex couples. So that's probably confusing.
It's very confusing.
There was a case where same-sex couples in Indiana adopted a child, and then there was something about them becoming the biological parents. And Indiana said, well, you're not the biological parents, you adopted them. So you're just, whatever. It's really at the end of the day, none of it essentially matters. But the Supreme Court overruled Indiana and said that they should be considered biological parents. So again, we're changing language, we're changing science, we're denying biology entirely. Where do we go from here?
And why would we want to deny biology and science, Dave?
We've been doing it.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, though, because it's to dismantle science. Like, literally, the scientific method was invented by ancient Greece for repeatable experiments and being able to like set up the basic foundation that became all of the sciences that is used by all of the world now, quite frankly. This is not like that's what the Renaissance eventually brought in, was the old way of thinking to push us into the millennia that we're in. But it started in Greece, man. Like all the biology and looking at things and human behavior and sociosciences and civics, and it's all came from it's their way of a backdoor bad mouthing Western systems, because the premonition of BLM and these communists that have taken over our country and government is saying that they are against China. I'm telling you, China. I'm blaming China for all this. I really am. I believe they stole the election. And if they're in every multinational corporation, they're fucking us so many ways. They're spying on our elected officials. This is a communist Chinese infiltration of our way of life in a 21st century war. But it's to demonize the West, to make us bad. And then by extension, they roll it into these crazy things so that they can use those poster childs of examples of this crazy individual case, right? In America, it's all about, lately everybody's been about social things. Well, we're going to do things for everybody. But what America's really about is about the individual circumstance. That's why you're tried by a jury of your peers. That's why, you have the right to a jury trial. You have the right to remain innocent until proven guilty. Because just because two people say you're guilty and I say I'm innocent, socially, if we're going off socialism 50%, I lost. No, we're the individual. So they take this individual example and then they extrude it to make things. I'm not saying the Supreme Court is making it evil, but yeah, they've denied science. They've denied things that we've known for hundreds of years, maybe longer, of certain biological traits of people. And then they use it to control our language, because I won't call somebody, I will call anybody ever, but the government can't force me to call somebody something. Like that's the level of government intervention and power to make that a law and put it into practice is not something you want. That's where Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, Mao Zedong, all these dictators, Genghis Khan probably didn't let you talk ill of them. That was thousands of years ago.
It's unlikely.
It's unlikely. Guy's responsible for a third of Asians' DNA.
So
or whatever it is.
We got some vaccine news. I got two pieces of vaccine news. One is another one that, of course, you've talked about already. You talked about it before these particular vaccines even came out, I believe. Headlines. You can't sue Pfizer or Moderna if you have severe COVID vaccine side effects. The government likely won't compensate you for damages either. We talked about this, the secret vaccine courts.
So if I don't get the vaccine, I can't go to work. I can't collect unemployment. And if I do get the vaccine and get sick from it, I can't even sue the companies, let alone the government, for forcing me to take it.
That's right. Are you denying science, Ryan? The vaccine should be fine.
David, what about the new variant of COVID in the United Kingdom?
What about that? Fine.
Are we going to have to lock down until we develop a second COVID vaccine because the first one's not good enough?
Well, Who would have thought a virus could? Who would have thought a virus could change?
Well, apparently it just mutated from a bat to a human within a generation, which is highly unlikely. And I'm not even a scientist. It's so ridiculous. We sit here every week. We talk about lamestream media and the drive-by media and all these other terms that all these other people coin it, Orwellian propaganda, all this stuff we say about it. And, I come in here, I hate them, and then I use them to prove my points. I don't do that because I'm a hypocrite. I do it because I just read news articles over the course of a few months and I catch them in a lie with their own words. I don't even need to know anything. I don't how you just said something, you've been right. I'm not a prophet. I read something a few months ago. I was like, that's going to be weird if I have to X, Y, and Z, and then X, Y, and Z happens. It's like, oh, that's kind of weird. Who would have seen this coming? It's like, what? Dude, I'm sitting here in my sweatpants and drinking a beer figuring this out. Like, what are we doing? What
it's very important that you say that, because we need to understand that the government is not incompetent. They're not stupid. There is a plan. These people are not dumb, I promise you. The stuff they do seems dumb, but I promise you, they are not dumb. They know exactly what they're doing.
Listen, they're dumb enough to get in the car with a Chinese spy and try to sleep with her, but they're not dumb enough to just steal your civil liberties in the middle of the night with zero problem and tell you that shutting down your business and destroying your livelihood is actually saving you and other people. Oh, so people are more... My kid starving isn't as important as killing somebody's grandma. Oh, so is grandma's life more important than my kids, or is my kid's life more important than the grandma, the stranger's grandma?
That leads us to another one.
This is pre-recorded, but Dave and I don't pre-do anything.
No, we literally totally... None of this is planned at all. Other than I text Ryan like the day of, and I say, "Hey, when are you gonna come on today?" And he's like, 5, 6, whatever. That's our only planning for the show.
And we named this one in advance this week. So,
headlines: New York Times floats the idea that elderly people are too white to get the vaccine first.
Dave, you know what this sounds like to me? A biological breadline. And then what you do is you show up, right? They give you a little sheet of paper, and there'll be all these boxes on there: race, address, income level, marital status. Do you have any children? What's your occupation? How much you weigh? Do you smoke? And then based on your decisions and your answers, we'll see if you're in the lottery to get your vaccine or not.
Did you talk about the...
And if I don't get
the what?
The stimulus that they just passed?
Eve's coming in with headlines during headlines.
Congress agrees to
It's
$900 billion
million, right,
COVID
Eve?
stimulus deal after months of failed negotiations. So apparently each person is at least getting $600 this time.
Ooh. $600.
Except for me, because I never got the first one, right?
Eve, before you say your headline on our show, you have to stare at the camera and go,
Headlines!
Get her in here. Get on camera with your pink hair.
There's a headline for you.
Ryan said to get in here on camera.
No. Look at me right now. Just throwing it out there, though. For all of you that get the stimulus,
So
congrats,
we're
since
getting-
I never got the first one.
We're getting 600.
600.
600, yes.
Not bad. Half the first
And
one.
I think 300 if you have a kid, like a 300 extra if you have a
Extra
kid.
300 if you have a child.
You both have kids. $300 more.
900. Nice. We're hitting it big.
Hey, David. I think it cost me more than $900 a month to stay alive.
I don't know. All it says right now is Congress reaches stimulus deal, and they're set to pass the whatever. So Pelosi is live right now on Facebook.
Man, I'd love to see. I hate watching that woman articulate anything.
Got your back.
painful.
Wait, all the dogs need to get out. I'm just a patriotic American who likes Josh Allen and dogs.
Come on, guys.
Don't tell ESPN.
You know how dope is it that the Bills kicked ass today, and they're going to kick ass for the next 2 weeks, and we're the red, white, and blue, and we have Josh Allen, this freak athlete, and we have an awesome wide receiver. You know what? the guy that's leading the NFL is on the racist Buffalo Bills team with a black wide receiver and a white quarterback and a black running back.
Mm.
You know how
And
much
then
people
there's
love
black offensive linemen and
Tre'Davious?
white offensive linemen and black people on the defense and white people on defense and white people on the coaching staff and black people on the coaching staff. They sound extremely racist.
Tre'Davious White is loved by literally every person I know for his abilities, and he's a good guy and everything. Everybody talks highly of him. He's a black gentleman. He's like one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Yeah, keep trash talking Buffalo. Keep attacking my region and my city because we founded republicanism. Because we founded the idea of smaller government. Keep going.
These.
This is
We've
like
been-
last week. Shame, 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 shame.
We've talked about so much divisiveness. Let's talk about some unity. This is unity without Biden being in office, by the way. This is Trump unity. Trump doesn't have anything to do with this. One of my favorites, Thomas Massey, he got together with Tulsi Gabbard, who we've been talking a lot about lately, and good for her. Take a stand for the Fourth Amendment, basically a bill to repeal the Patriot Act. Democrat, Republicans come together to get rid of the Patriot Act. Good for her. We've been saying a lot of nice things about her lately. She needs to keep it up.
Yeah. Thank you, Tulsi. I appreciate you in the state of Hawaii over there. The problem is that all these ad companies make too much money off stealing our data. And how are we putting the genie back in the bottle?
Well, see, Kevin's talked about this before on our show. Yeah. When's the last time government has lost power?
Never.
Take a
1776.
Take a little bit, take a little bit, take a little bit. They never give it back, even if it's temporary. COVID, temporary.
Well,
let's see in a year if it's temporary.
Yeah, we'll link two things together here because they actually bounce off each other with my point about these social media companies and ad companies. They would have to define the monopolies of social media and big tech first before they could do anything about fixing the Fourth Amendment damage. Because these social media companies are plugged into all of the loopholes that allow them to extrude our data from our devices and our information. For them to run ads with and get ad algorithms and all these other companies. Like, how many companies are we talking about that you would have to... You're basically flipping a whole industry with that Fourth Amendment bill.
Yeah.
Because that ties into privacy.
Is there a way...
And social media.
Is there a way to do it?
Verizon, telecommunications, like all of that. It's all together. You're gonna, like I said, have to define what a monopoly is in social media and big tech first, because all of that is like its own thing. It's all jack together. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just gonna say, is there a way to do it where, because you agree when you sign up for Facebook or you sign up for whatever Google or whatever Gmail account, it doesn't matter. When you sign up for it, there's always a big lengthy licensing agreement, and buried in there somewhere in the thing that you don't read is that you agree to allow them to use your information. So I've never once agreed to allow the government to use my information. Is there a way to separate the two, private industry, government?
As of right now, I don't see how we can separate them, especially with big tech, when big tech themselves says that they're two different things. They say they're a platform and a publisher. So, but they do both. So because they're allowed to do both, they're allowed to skate between this thing of selective enforcement on our digital privacy rights. So this is actually what we should be saying here about the social media monopolies and Tulsi Gabbard bill. Maybe instead of defending the Fourth Amendment, we need to bond together to create a coalition for the development of 21st century digital privacy rights, the Digital Bill of Rights, and specifically involve the internet. And not say that the internet is a right, but we need to maybe we need to define under the First Amendment with the internet. We need to really lock in what.
That you're allowed to, but I think I know what you're saying. You're saying that we should still have our we're still entitled to our rights, even if it's
On the
on
internet,
the entity
yes.
of the internet.
Yes, even a private business should not have rights to take my digital data, because there's a couple other things. One, we were told that the mass metadata, that was their term. They were like, oh, we only look for specific data is important. It's a lie. Mass metadata is what they want, because then they can make the algorithm. If they have all of the data, they can make all the algorithms they want to either sell you stuff or whatever. That's where, like I said, all these ad companies, Amazon and stuff are the big ones, Instagram, all that. That's just all the algorithms jacked into all the information, all the hashtags, all of the shares, all the location settings. So, like, it's literally encompassing all of that. We need to define what it means to have rights for the freedom of speech, for the right of the jury by trial and stuff. Because that's another thing in itself. When you go to Facebook jail, there's no Facebook court, right? By your peers. Why would our Fourth Amendment be any different? If Facebook says it's a platform, a free and open platform, then by extension, I have the right to a jury trial. If you take my freedom of speech off of your free and open platform, the public discussion.
Yeah, this is where it gets...
Same, mind you, yes, because the same people on the left say the internet's a right. Well, if the internet's a right, by extension, this is what we need to define. I don't believe the internet is a right. It's a commodity. But we still need to have our ability to not get our stuff. Our information is so precious. So this mass metadata, and it goes even further with the hacks that have happened this week, is showing what happens if we don't have good digital privacy rights to begin with and go through the right things to have these things stored and secure and backed up with digital privacy rights and firewalls so that they're not stolen. We don't want China to have our information, and we don't want Facebook to have our information. They're the same thing. They're just a public company, or a private company, or they're a public country. A country. It doesn't matter. Like, we need to have the same rights. We need to have the same digital privacy rights.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I applaud Tulsi for getting it taught. Obviously, I don't think this is going to go anywhere, but I think we're looking at we're addressing the symptoms that we don't have this spelled out specifically, that Facebook cannot just censor you. They just can't censor you. If a bakery has to bake a cake for a gay person, how can you censor me on Facebook and say that you're a private company? When the physical private Facebook ain't even a real thing. It's just a fake thing on a screen, and you can take that away from me. But the physical bakery, the government overreach on the physical bakery to legally force somebody to bake a cake for a gay person, like, why is that any different than Facebook? You shadow banning me.
So Eve sent this through. This is a little more on that stimulus check. The stimulus package is expected to include means-tested payments, whatever that means, of up to $600 for U.S. adults, extra unemployment insurance for Americans who have lost their jobs, more than $200 billion in additional relief for small businesses, an increase in federal funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. Overall, it's a nearly $1 trillion bill, $900 billion.
Congratulations, Joe. Good job, Joe Biden. Good job.
Yeah, good job, Joe Biden. He's not even president yet. He's making such great things happen. Joe
Biden got the stimulus package passed.
I got two more. I want to end on it's not really a light note, but it seems on the face that it's a lighter end. But I want to get into this because this is more about the damn privileged whites in America, or just in general in the world. The headline's mind-blowing to me. Headlines! Deaf and blind Helen Keller belittled as just another privileged white person in Time magazine.
Are you fucking serious?
Could you imagine being so privileged? Ted Cruz had a thing about this. He destroyed Times. I encourage you to go look it up because it's tremendous. It's Ted Cruz at some of his best. But yeah, Helen Keller, blind, deaf, privileged white person.
Learn how to read Braille and talk, right?
Could you imagine?
No, she learned.
There's poor minorities who can't read at all. She's privileged.
I can't say the word retard because it's offensive, but you can call it a deaf, blind
That's a disability.
woman privileged.
Disabled. Yeah.
It's just like the selective outrage is just so impeccably clear.
To be clear,
This is why we do headlines. This is why we do headlines.
To be clear, the same people were very upset that people were making fun of Joe Biden because he has a stutter. That's a disability, and we shouldn't make fun of that. Blind and deaf Helen Keller, privileged white person. It's all nonsense. And this is the last one. And this, I hate this so much. I hope you hate this as much as me, because it's just him trying to be lighthearted, but it makes me so mad. Headlines! Dr. Fauci tells children he went to the North Pole and vaccinated Santa Claus himself. Don't worry, kids. You're COVID safe. I hate Fauci. He sucks. Trump tried to
breaking news next week. Breaking news next week. Dr. Fauci went to the factory that makes the elf on a shelf and provided vaccines to all the elves so that they don't give your kids COVID.
Breaking news, Santa misses deliveries after he comes down with Bell's palsy.
Did he stop by all the people that have the menorahs? So for the Jewish community, did he wipe all the ladles down?
Well, it's too late. It's too late. Yeah. I don't know. Is Fauci? Is he anti? Does he hate the Jews? He probably hates the Jews.
Dude, looks Jewish.
Dr. Fauci hates the Jews.
Looks Jewish.
He's only saving Christmas for the Christian whites.
You can't be racist against Jews. Jesus wasn't Middle Eastern. Yeah, he was Jewish too, though. You hate Middle Easterners, no?
He was born in Israel.
Jewish in Israel. Come on now. Come on, man.
Weird.
Congratulations, you played yourself. So Fauci, I'm glad that the government is so powerful that it's got to get involved in pagan rituals. I'm really impressed with that.
Yeah. I hate Fauci. That's all.
Did he do just the black Santa, or did he vaccinate the white Santa?
There's only one Santa, Ryan.
Is it racist to only show white Santa, even though the guy that actually was Santa historically was white?
Saint
Even
Nicholas?
though it's a pagan thing that we've... Yeah. He wasn't black.
No.
So, like, for a white Santa to deliver to black children, is that really racist if Santa is grounded in a pagan tradition based on a historical event and a guy? Is that whitewashing?
Yes. If it's one thing I've learned...
black people?
If it's one thing I've learned from the left, it's that traditions can be racist.
And this is where they fundamentally take the things apart to destroy Western culture. That's why they do it. That's why they say it's racist that there's a white Santa Claus, even though historically he was a white person. So yes, if he did give it to black people, it's not racist because St. Nicholas was a white person. Even though it's paganism and mythic and magic and stupid storytelling we tell our children, fine. We can all make believe. I don't care if you have a black Santa. But, like, I'm just saying, like, they hijack these things. Like, Christmas is a Western thing. Ben Shapiro, I don't know anything about Hanukkah, but Hanukkah was this week, right? See, it shows how much I know. But whenever it was, Ben Shapiro's got a great video on his page about it. Go look at it because he talks about how it's about a civil war. And Hanukkah is not like this thing of like unity and love and peace and all this. No, it's like celebrating the fact that there was this crazy civil war and they lived through this mass death of Jewish people.
Yeah,
it's not a happy holiday. It's not. It's not like, oh, Jesus was born on Christmas, right? That's what we're told, even though he's born in the middle of spring. Jesus was born on Christmas. So we're like, oh, happy birthday, Jesus! Bust out your manger. It's super cold, even though it's the spring. Super cold in the manger with animals.
The Middle East used to be real cold during the spring.
Thank God there wasn't
climate change, Ryan.
Thank God there wasn't a biblical Child Protective Services with a SWAT camel come and take that kid away. There'd be no religion in no Western world. Yeah, he talks about how it's like this very brutal thing, and like the Jews were basically screwed over, and Israel was taken, and all this stuff I didn't really necessarily know And it's only a couple minutes, but he does a pretty digestible version of it. So, yeah, moral of the story, fuck Fauci. I hate that guy. So with the government signing a law that I'm going to get $600 or whatever, can we stop talking about forcing people to get the vaccine to get $1,000 stimulus package now? Can we stop about the headlines?
That could be still in the future. Granted,
Can we
we're
stop
only
floating bills? Oh, it's still in the future because $600 is going to pay people like. Can you imagine like the day you get $600 and you're like, like if you had a number, it'd be like you owe $1,000. It's like deposit $600, remaining balance $400, like or negative $400. Like we're pissing in a pail and saying it's rain. You're pissing on me and saying it's rain. Aren't I thankful that they just spent $1 trillion of my dollars to give me 600 of it?
no, it's only 900 billion.
And
You could get 900.
on the United States debt, David.
No,
There's
not at all.
interest on the debt?
No, it's not like a massive amount of our spending every year. It's just the interest on the debt.
Oh, so you mean we don't even pay towards our debt, David?
No, we just add to it.
Is that all the headlines you had?
That's all the headlines I had. Yeah.
Okay, I got a couple things I can gloss over here. I know we talked about the effects of the COVID vaccine and stuff, but it is kind of funny to me that there's this big thing going on. I listen to a lot of different stuff, and some people are like, "I'm not taking that vaccine," and everybody's like, "Take it." There's memes going around about things that you don't know what's in it, and it shows like McDonald's, cocaine, like these but you won't take the COVID vaccine, and it's just like, well, maybe this all highlights that there's an individual responsibility of the things you put in your body, and you must understand what everything is. You must be educated. You must understand your place in all of this and understand why you do certain things and why you don't do other things.
Yes. So to go further on that point, nobody forces you to take cocaine to go to work. So I guess you eat your McDonald's breakfast, you can't come here.
Cuomo, I don't know if it was Cuomo or the city of New York, but New York shutdowns, it was said, quote, something to worry about looking at our numbers rising. So we could be shut down again in the state of New York. I saw another thing about.
Did you really ever open, though?
No. California's never opened, and their hospitals are overwhelmed right now. They never unlocked. So saying that the lockdown was to stop the spread is actually a lie because the hospitals is now overwhelmed, and they never came out of whatever stage they were in.
Just imagine how much worse it would be if you didn't try to stop the spread. It'd be so much worse.
Dave, we did try to stop the spread. And I also thought wearing a mask and social distancing was a way to stop the spread, even though we're at record number of deaths and record number of people getting sick.
See, that's only just one way, though. Just, again, it could all be so much worse. Imagine all these people walking around with no masks in their busy restaurants. We'd have 1 million deaths, right? Isn't this the premise?
Yeah, aren't we going to get 1 million deaths either way? We're just going to have 7 waves of 200,000 deaths.
Sure, maybe.
And it just might be instead of like killing 1 million people in 6 months, we're going to kill 1 million people in 6 years over the same thing.
Probably. You can kill them a lot faster. It depends how you want to make the statistics.
I wonder if during the bubonic plague they stayed inside and just was like, "Oh, we're going to be fine here."
I wonder if during the bubonic plague they included other disease in their numbers. Or gunshot victims, shark attacks, car accidents,
heart attacks.
That guy crashed his guy died while jousting. Bubonic plague death.
Yeah, I saw a thing. There was a couple. It was like restaurant owners across the country are bonding together against these COVID lockdowns. These small businesses, and they're saying, "I've given enough." I talked about a few weeks ago, the person in Orchard Park. He said, fuck Cuomo, basically. And we're hearing about more shutdowns. So rubber's meeting the road. People are getting pissed. The election stuff, everything going on with that, the legal battles with Trump, people saying, basically, I saw a thing that there was a poll that most Republicans, like 85% of them, don't believe that the election was fair.
Oh,
So
that's good.
So the foreign and domestic intervention in our elections, those people are laughing at us because we're idiots.
Do you think anything will happen? Say Republicans take over Congress again. Is Biden surely getting impeached? Right, because let's be clear, the Democrats set a precedent. They impeached Donald Trump over essentially something they investigated and found nothing on.
What if they prove that Donald Trump did win the election after the fact, and Joe Biden's president? What if Trump can prove it? It just takes an extra month. Do they go and forcibly remove Biden and say that the people picked the people's choice?
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
Short of the Insurrection Act, there's nothing Donald Trump can do legally. And whether people are playing politics or not, the courts and everything else, short of the Insurrection Act, Joe Biden will be president in January.
Yeah. And this is territory obviously we've never seen. So it's an interesting question. I mean, what happens if we do a legitimate investigation and we find a month after, 6 months after, even if it's a year or 2 years after? I mean, what happens at that point? Does a sitting president who was sworn into office, does he get booted out 2 years into his presidency? It's such a weird scenario to imagine.
Yeah, and my thing is imagining what people would say about it. Like, oh, I don't care, let him go because he's been in there. And then it's like, well, now that we know that people don't care about elections, how can we trust anybody to vote ever again? Your average brother and sister or your neighbor, if they don't care that the election was stolen this time or whatever, and they're going to, if we allow that to happen, what are we saying as a nation? That our destiny is not ours? That self-preservation of the individual is not important to us as a country? That the ability to make a living without government overreach or without overlords to tell me where and when I can do my commerce or where and when I can't go or where and when I can't do? This is basically the identity of the country when you talk about trusting and verification in our elections.
Yeah, it's I don't know. There's so many questions that can be brought up by this. I mean, at the end of the day, it's likely all for naught. I mean, I just at the end of the day, I don't see anything happening. Biden's going to get sworn in, and he's going to be president for at least 4 years. But it's just an interesting scenario to bring up. I mean, if like I said, if Biden's, even if it's 2 years later, does Trump does he get booted out, and does Trump serve 4 years from there? It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of weird scenarios that could take place. But again, at the end of the day, I don't suspect anything's going to happen. Nothing's going to come from this.
I don't know, man. It's all so crazy. Like you said, we haven't seen this in modern history. So it's going to be crazy to see what happens with the interpretation of modern history with everything.
Yeah. Like I said, I'd like to see, you know what I'd like to see really more than anything? I'd like Trump, even if it's a day before even if it's his last day in office, if he knows nothing's happening, I'd love to see him just just Burning Man, just try to just burn it all to the ground, declassify all documents. Yeah, I would love it.
We could call it the Trump dump.
I would love it. You want to take the swamp out, declassify all documents right now. If you really want to drain the swamp, do it. You have the legal authority to do it. Do it. Declassify everything.
Pardon Snowden.
Pardon Snowden, absolutely, but just declassify everything. It would be such a great move.
Excuse me. All right, I got like 2 more points here. I briefed touchly on the COVID variant in UK is altering. So it brings up a lot of things like will it alter here? Will we have to deal with this? But
why is anyone surprised though? The flu changes every year.
Well, David,
that's why vaccines aren't
we don't
super effective against the flu. That's right.
We believe biology, David.
That's right. We're the science deniers, though. and yet somehow other people are surprised that a virus can change.
It's funny they don't consider
We know
statistics
this
as science,
already.
but-
Why are we surprised? This is not news.
Yeah, I wonder if the bubonic plague would have had the spread stopped if they would have social distanced and wore masks.
The virus now itself is already a variant of another virus. It's a variant of SARS. Why is anyone surprised by any of this? This is nonsense.
You sound like a science denier, Dave. Yeah, I can't wait for the great American COVID variant, COVID-2.
COVID-20.
COVID-20 shuts down 2021. And then there'll be a whole new Netflix show about pandemic again, about mutating viruses and getting your vaccines that aren't poisoned, that people are having adverse effects, but you won't be able to sue anybody because not only will you be without a job because you got the vaccine and you're sick, but if I don't get the vaccine, I can't get my job either because you'll be able to deny me unemployment, I'm sure, because we have this social contract that says somewhere that I have to get vaccines to save people's lives. But besides the point, I'm going to segue to my final point here. Over this past weekend here in Buffalo, Niagara Square, there was a protest of patriots. I know these people personally. They're good people. They are not instigators. They might be a little rowdy like everybody else likes to get up, but they don't cause fights. They don't cause trouble. It got violent at this rally. There was Antifa showed up, and they clashed with the people that were protesting. And the guy from Antifa actually got hurt. And I don't know if he hit his head on the ground.
Oh, that's a shame.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm so sad for that person.
So the medics of his that were there ran away from him, and the Patriots had people there that were medical professionals, went over to the guy from Antifa and addressed his wounds for him when his own people couldn't. See, that's the difference between us and them, and that's why we'll win and prevail, is because our cause is the good cause. We're fighting for everybody.
Even people we disagree with.
We're fighting for everybody.
Especially
for the people I disagree with.
This is a great point.
Those people, the people I disagree with are the people that deserve freedoms that I necessarily may not. You know what I mean? Like freedom of speech, prime example.
Yeah.
Like it's said all the time. You have the right to offend people, and you also have the right to be offended. Now, that's not saying that you should go say offensive things. It's just saying that people will say things that offend you. And just because you're offended by it doesn't mean that they don't have the right to that speech. So the people that may speak about the downfall of America and pro-socialism, Marxism, and bringing down Western governments and all this other things, we just sit by idly, peacefully, standing up for their rights to say those things. I'm not a Nazi supporter, or a Confederate supporter, but I understand the freedom that needs to exist to have those flags, to be able to have the talks about Nazis and Confederates. Like, we need that public discourse. We can't make these illegal. We can't just button them up, put them in a box under our bed. They become monsters. Yeah, the Patriots actually are defending the people that they're arguing, because we see what freedom is. Freedom means both sides of the aisle. Freedom means both sides of an argument. Freedom means living both sides of your life a certain way. As long as you're a moral person, man, I'll defend all freedoms and morality. Treat others how you want to be treated. It's a golden rule, man.
Yeah.
So I think there's nothing better to end it with that than, Antifa and Patriots clashing in Buffalo. There are probably only 100 people down there. But you know what? Like, for every one person that was down there, they probably were speaking for thousands of people. These small skirmishes is what will lead to these big clashes that could come in this country if we don't,
Well, I hope, honestly.
We saw it with Chapin Chaz, and some of those places are popping up again. Those autonomous zones on the west, they're starting to pop up again. And we've seen all the violence in the streets and the riots over this whole year. So,
I mean, this Antifa member who came in and started clashing, I legitimately hope, A, he learned his lesson, and B, he's very lucky that it didn't get worse.
Well, they showed up too with like army vests, and they had a knife, like a long,
I saw the image,
like
and I mean, it was a yeah.
And
This
there's
was
laws
a
about
Crocodile
bringing
Dundee
blades.
knife. This was
Yeah,
serious.
there's laws about bringing blades onto state property like that. The guy actually violated state laws when he brought that knife at public square at state property. You're not allowed to bring that on that property because of the type of knife. And that's another thing. Like, we'll do this and then we'll get out of here. But like the gun laws, like people that want gun control, they don't know a lot of the gun laws that are already out there. Like in New York, for example, most crimes with firearms are committed with a handgun. A handgun has the most regulations to get. It's the hardest guns to get in New York. So like, if the average person was like, yeah, we just need gun controls to make pistols harder to get, be like, well, pistols are already the hardest to get, and they commit 95% of all the violent crimes with them. And it's the same thing to go the other way with it. Like that, we're allowing they're breaking the law. They don't know the law because they're breaking the law because they don't know the law, because they're only seeing and believing what they want to with it. And that is one of them. This guy went there to cause violence. He did not care about the law. He brought the knife because he thought he needed it for self-defense for whatever reason. Well, even in that's so funny. He brought it for self-defense because he didn't want to be a victim, but the very laws of my state and my local county allow me to not defend myself and become a victim. That's why it's ass backwards. That's why the Patriots defend your dumb ass bringing a knife there. Most people would probably be like, yeah, you should be able to carry a knife in a public building, but so should I. Should be able to carry a gun in here. Like I know people like that. So that's the mindset like that we're up against. So we'll call it there and leave it there. I appreciate everybody if you stuck around. This has been a December 1773 podcast. I thank you all. Dave, I love you, man. I'll talk to you soon, and I'll see everybody next week.
Yeah.
Like,
we'll
follow, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Swipe up, comment, whatever. Do it all, man.
I don't know if you can swipe up on any of this.
Just do it anyways.
All right. I'll see you later, and I will see everybody next Monday at 7.
Peace, man. Go Bills.
Thanks. See ya.